Hello everyone. Today we're going to know how to study SCMPE to get an exemption in CA Final. So the first question is coaching versus self-study. I would say that it is a subject that is manageable by self-study because now the subject has pivoted from being a solely practical subjects to more theory-inclined subject. So there has been a lot of focus on theory and case studies recently. So that is something that no teacher can teach you. It is something that it is a skill that you'll develop and you'll be able to learn over time by yourself. So it is almost like wasting time on coaching. But having said that, there are also a lot of practical aspects there. There are a lot of practical questions also. So study material does not have a lot of practical questions for you to practice. So maybe you can also, along with study material, refer to some other faculty's book to practice those questions if you're going for self-study. So I took coachings because when I took coachings for SCMP in 2019, at that time the format of the paper was a lot practical inclined, but now it has become more theoretical, as you know. The coaching I took actually become irrelevant by the time I had to appear for my exam. So in a way, I had to do self-study only. So I stuck to study material for that matter, and it is pretty comprehensive and a good point for you to refer and prepare for exams. Then coming to the materials you can refer to. So in case you have taken coaching, then the faculty notes, or even in case you have not taken coaching, then apart from ICA study material, which you have to cover even if you have taken coaching, ICA material is an absolute necessity, especially in case of costing. So alongside for you to get a hang of the practical questions, you can take other faculties' books. So I took coaching from Purushottam Agarwal, so he had a lot of questions. Or you can simply avoid even going for some faculty book and rather refer to ICI, case study digest, past year papers, RTPs, MTPs. So that'll also give you a good practice and it'll be enough in itself. So for SCMP specifically, ICI has come with this additional resources. And in case you don't know, ICI also publishes student journal every month. So in that, for different months, they have special editions covering different subjects. So for example, one of these editions they covered this SEMP, so they had a lot of charts and everything. Similarly for audit, and they had a lot of questions also, and they were covering new concepts. So ICI has added those study journal, like the student journal questions also, as in the form of additional resources on their website. You can find it on their website. So refer to those also. Then coming to when to study SEMP. So SCMP ideally you should cover in the first year of your articleship only. So you should aim to cover three subjects, SFM, costing, and FR in the first year of your articleship. So you can do it in any order, but let's say people generally do SFM first because it barely changes, and then you could move to either what do you say, SCMP or FR. So FR would be helpful to do earlier in case you are, let's say, doing an articleship and audit, then you'll be able to apply that theoretical knowledge to practical aspects. But FR has been seeing a lot of changes recently, so I would say you can push that as much as you can and do SCMP first because it sees fewer changes than at least FR. So do SFM, then SCMP, and then FR in the first year of your articleship. Try and completing that. Moving on to finally how to study costing. So if you are taking coachings, then this is the format for you. You should watch daily lectures and also revise alongside those lectures. Whatever you studied in those lectures, try covering it from all the aspects. So even compare what your teacher is teaching you with the study material in with your coachings only. So I did not do that with my coaching. So later on, when I started revising costing, I figured out there are a lot of changes in costing, and almost everything that I had studied had become irrelevant now. So I was in absolute panic mode by then. So I would say tally it with your study material initially only to have a confidence even on your faculty, your notes, and your books. So that you need to have before at least your so before your study leaves, you have need to have absolute confidence on the material that you're referring to, and you know that these are the books you have to refer to, these are the things that you have to study. Then coming to the duration that the coachings would take, so it differs from faculty to faculty, but you'll be able to cover SCMP in, let's say, 2 or 2.5 months if you have a good momentum. Then complete your notes, whatever the teacher is teaching. Try to keep everything updated. Then cross numbering is very important. So in your book, you write the number, like the page number where that particular question is solved in your register, and in your register you refer, you write down the page number of the book where that question is. So it'll help you a lot going forward. So do that for all the subjects. Daily revisions I've already covered. Then resolving doubts, again, very important. So you'll have a lot of doubts, so try and resolving it with your coaching only. And then if you're not taking coaching, which is absolutely fine, and I believe that costing is a subject which can easily be managed by self-study. You just need to stick to your ICS study material, try and understanding the theory. So theory is absolutely necessary now, and it cannot be neglected. So almost 80% paper was theoretical. So if let's say there's a 120 marks paper, right? So 80 would be theory, then 40 would be practical. So you yourself see how important theory has become. And theory is something that no teacher can teach you. It is something that you can learn on your own. So yeah, self-study becomes all the more relevant for this subject. So try and going through what is written there, try and understand. If you're not able to understand a particular model or something, you can easily YouTube that. There are a lot of videos available out there, or you can ask a friend or someone. And so you can also practice, and you'll practice all the questions that are given in the study material. Then having done that, if you feel that you're not very comfortable still with the like solving part, then you can pick up some other faculty's book only to practice questions and not refer theory. So even if you're taking coaching from any teacher, don't refer to the theory book. Stick to ICS study material absolutely for theory. So because you need to learn that language only. Otherwise, you won't fetch marks. So yeah, for self-study, for practical questions, you can refer to other faculty notes if you're not very comfortable and not very confident with that. And then after this, you can also pick up papers that we'll discuss later. So yeah, first revision, read all your class notes again and again. So here you can also practice the questions. So by practice, it does not mean you have to write 100, you have to solve 100% of the questions and answers in written. You can just probably skip it to similar questions, solve one of the comprehensive questions which you think looking at that you won't be able to solve. Otherwise, try and framing solutions, like a flow of solutions in your mind, going through the solutions. What is the treatment of each and every item in detail? You'll have to look at it in detail because you'll have to make up for the fact that you're not writing it down. So you have to be very vigilant while you're reading it. Then categorizing questions as ABC is very important, especially in costing, because there are a lot of questions. Earlier, there used to be actually a lot of questions. Now there are fewer. But if you're referring to a faculty note, then there are a lot of questions. Then you need to classify them as ABC category. So that will come in handy in your further revisions. Then mixed type notes and mark for theory, very important. If you're a person who can only learn from their kind of handwriting and their own notes, then make your notes during your first revision itself. And then you're going through theory in your ICS study material, there will be a lot of things which will be irrelevant. So from a page, sometimes you'll see that there's only like, let's say, 10 lines which are very important. So mark those 10 lines so that going forward you don't waste time going through the entire page. Duration of the first revision. So SCMP is not that complex or comprehensive or a lengthy subject, you'll realize after a point of time. So it'll take you, first revision maybe will take you 20 days alongside doing other subjects. I'm assuming you're not doing just costing, but let's say you're doing 2 subjects a day or 3 subjects a day, then it'll take you some 20-25 days. And then going forward, the duration keeps on decreasing as the number of revision increases. Ideally, you try and reach to a point like till your study leaves that you're able to revise it in, let's say, 15 days. In further revisions, adequate number of revisions. There are no adequate number of revisions, and it differs from individual to individual. But SCMP, I think, would need 2-3 revisions, and you'll be good to go. It is not that complex a subject. It has become more theoretical subject, so it is just on you, how much time you take to remember things. So accordingly, you can plan your study. So planning is very important by the method that you've been following so far in your studies. Don't change the method because just someone told you that this method is better. Do what is best for you. Duration, I already touched upon that it keeps on decreasing. Target 15 days or 20 days along with other subjects. Writing versus reading, whether you should write everything down or read it. So as I said earlier, depends upon your study style. So I am the person who kind of frames solutions in a mind while going through questions, while after reading the questions. So I can frame, this will be the answer, like this will be the treatment for this particular point. So I'm able to do that. So I don't write answers. But you can have a good mix of both. Let's say read questions which are repetitive and then write few questions which are very comprehensive. So you can have a good mix of both. Then ICA study material is your absolute base for SCMP. You cannot neglect that whether or not you're taking coaching. Additional faculty questions. So yeah, as I said earlier also, whether you're doing self-study or coaching, refer to faculty questions only, not theory. You can, if you're not comfortable with, practical aspect of the subject, then refer any faculty notes for practical questions. Then, having done one of the revision, you'll be pretty comfortable with the subjects, and this is the time you do your past year papers, RTPs, and MTPs. It is very important in case of SCMP because it has some new concepts also that are covered only in RTPs and are not given anywhere else, not in past years or not even in your ICS material. So it becomes absolute necessity to do these papers for this subject specifically. Then case study digest and additional resources. So case study digest you have to absolutely practice because they have given case scenarios, case studies, and even practical questions here, and they have a good level of questions. And then the additional resources also because new concepts are introduced here.
Then coming to revising the subject 1 day before the exam. So follow a top-down approach, that is do the chapters which are the most important first. So do the chapters priority wise or weightage wise, so that you can also see on the ICA website which chapter or which section has what weightage. Otherwise, I'll be also be covering the important topics later on in the video. Then focus on ICS study material, as I said also earlier. Don't ignore theory, absolute necessary. Almost 80%, 60 to 80% paper is now theoretical. Refer only A and B category questions because, yeah, lesser focus on questions, more focus on theory. Because theory can get you through, but only practical cannot get you through in this subject. The study material, do study material plus only the important questions from your faculty notes if you have time. Otherwise, stick to study material. Then read more questions, try and developing this habit where you're able to read the question and kind of imagine or visualize an answer in your mind without having to write it down. So it is a skill that is developed over a period of time. Try doing it from the get-go only. Then utilize the day of the previous exam. So the day you come back after taking your exam, utilize that day because it is a less stressful day. You don't have an exam next day. So that is that peace of mind. Don't waste that time. Then the most asked question, how to learn theory. So there are some memorization techniques that I have used or I've seen people use which worked for them. So you need to find out which strategy works best for you. So these are some of the common ones. So read repeatedly. The more you'll read, the more you'll be able to register that. Recall immediately. So when you read, let's say a particular model, let's say you study the Fitzgerald Moon model, then try and visualize. So close your book and try and visualize what all you studied. This is the thing. These are the three key elements. These are the four things that are covered under each element, and that's it. You'll be able to explain those elements. That is it that you need to learn. You just need to know the keywords, and then you can write it on your own in your own language. You don't have to remember everything word by one. You not learn the entire line. You can just remember the keyword. Then scribble. So for some people it helps to scribble alongside. It helps them focus. It need not even be legible, and you can just you know kind of if you're revising something or reading something, just scribble side by side. Make self notes or mini charts. So charts help certain people, and instead of going through like a page of theory, they'll refer to that chart, get a look at the chart and be able to register all the information. So you can do that. Then mnemonics also works for some people. Mnemonics can be like a word or it can even be a sentence. It never worked for me because I used to forget the mnemonic also, but yeah, it might work for you. Then focus only on words and not the entire line. We've covered. Then 1-1-1 revision rule. So it is something which is difficult to follow now in CA final, but if you can do it, nothing will like it. So first is 1 day. You need to revise whatever you studied on, let's say Monday, within 1 day. That is on Tuesday. You have to revise that particular thing again. Then within 1 week, and then within 1 month of having studied that topic first. That'll make that topic permanent in your mind. It is said. Then coming to our last segment, that is the important topics in SCMP. So first is obviously performance evaluation because primarily because it has a lot of models and they might be asked as a like a 10 marks questions or like yeah, they might carry a lot of weightage, and the questions given at the back like in TYK questions are also quite comprehensive, and you need to know that. Then divisional transfer pricing is almost asked every time and most of the times. So it is a chapter from which a practical question will most probably be asked along with a 4 mark theory. So that is the thing with theory that They might not even give you a separate ekdam theory question entirely. So even in practical questions, they will introduce theory in some way. Let's say there's a 12 mark question or something, then they'll make it 6 mark practical, 6 mark theory. So they will have a lot of theory. So don't ignore theory for any chapter for that matter. So revision transfer pricing is a very important chapter, and of late, quite tricky questions have been coming from this chapter. Then lean system and innovations, again, very important from a theory perspective. There are a lot of important questions, and even from a practical perspective. In standard costing, less focus on theory here, more focus on practical. But a lot of people find standard costing quite tricky. But it is a question that sure shot will be asked in exam. So you need to focus there also. People spend a lot of time usually on decision making, but it is a question that you'll be able to do, like you'll have a better hang of that particular topic. I believe it is something that you can find a solution to, also a new question on the spot. So don't waste too much time there. Therefore, focus more on theory. Yes, so that's it, guys. All the best for your exams. I hope this video helped you. Do let me know in case you have any questions, queries, or anything you want to know more about. Thank you so much for watching. Do like, share, and subscribe for more such videos.